take Elijah for next time.
Why don't you pass the Elijah
We're getting some key people in the Bible, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I don't know why, see, I'm not a fan of David, so,
Barb?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why we've
Stephen?
put him up as the ultimate hero. But let's begin. What time period do we have? From 11:15?
Quarter till, technically.
Okay, we have a half hour then, right? Okay.
We usually would go till 12 hours.
Okay, let's pray. Let's pray. Lord, continue to watch over us. And now I ask that you would open our hearts and our minds to your word, because it's that word that sustains our daily life. Help us to learn something about what happens in David's life to be applied to our own. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So, all my life, I've known every detail about a person I've met, but one thing that I've always had a difficult time are the names, until I work with people and kind of interchange. So, but I'm going to ask, just for the sake of just getting a name. So, first, Marv. Okay.
Carol.
Carol.
Sherry.
Sherry.
Patty.
Patty. Okay.
Monica Byrne, the Oligo Turner. She like a Toliga Boliga.
Myrna.
Bert, whatever, okay, Myrtle, okay.
Not Myrtle.
Myrna, okay. Peter. Nancy, okay. You notice I have hearing aids? I have hearing aids because, I used to referee high school and college basketball.
Oh.
And, nobody ever said back then that when you blow a whistle 40, 50 times a game, and referee whistles, by the way, are a little bit different pitch than any whistle that you buy. It's a higher pitch, that would impact her ears. And that's what I tell my wife, please, because I can't hear her. But,
You look like a referee.
well, I don't, but I still play basketball, and the young pups allow me to still play with them, so that's cool. But I love getting into this word that we kind of have grown up with. So I'm going to make two statements, and I move around when I teach, so please, that's why I'm glad you're sitting and I can move. If I fill it, you fill in the phrase. David and
Goliath.
David and Goliath? David and Bathsheba.
Yes.
So those are the two probably heavy-duty stories of David that none of us will ever forget. All right, and we're going to look at those today, so we can, because sometimes our stories are based on our Sunday school, and the Sunday school softens it down.
Oh, amen.
When I was in 8th grade, there was only 3 of us in Sunday school. My dad taught in the grade school that the church ran, and another guy was there, his dad taught, so we were stuck going to Sunday school. And the other boy, the 3 of us, is that his dad was head of Christian education for the church. So in 8th grade, everyone weeded out, we were the only 3.
Yeah.
But in 8th grade, we had a Concordia College in River Forest, Illinois, around where I grew up. I grew up just outside of Chicago. A professor, an Old Testament professor, taught, and he taught us 8th grade Sunday school, and he taught us 1st and 2nd Samuel. And it's a book that every teenage boy should be hungry to read, because it's filled with excitement and, how do I say it,
Violence?
sex.
Manliness?
It has all those ingredients that, I tell confirmation kids, read this, you'll love it. So we're going to read the story, first of all, of David and Goliath. That's the first thing that happens. This happens before he is king. He's one of 8 siblings. And what's interesting is that God gets fed up with these people who said, we want another king, we want a king. And Saul is not the best king of kings. In fact, a lot of kings weren't the best of kings. And so Samuel goes out to anoint, to select another person. And it's like, he goes to the eldest, Benjamin, and then the second, and the third, gets down through all 7 of them. And that's important to know, because in biblical numbers are important. 7 means what? 3 and 7 have the same meaning.
Plague,
7 days to make the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on the good path. 7 days to make the world, which means 7 what? What would 7 mean if God made the world in 7 days? It's done.
Oh,
It's complete.
it's complete.
So, well, Jesus was in the grave for how many, we say he, on the 3rd day, so 3. 3 had that same meaning, that it's done. Lazarus, we hear the story of Lazarus, and he was in the grave how many days?
3.
No, he was in the grave, add 1 more, 4, which means he's really dead.
Yeah.
He's not just dead, he's really dead.
Yeah.
So, all of a sudden, 7 sons are looked at. Well, must be it. It must be complete. And all of a sudden, nope, there's 1 more. The 8th. And that's who?
David.
So David is this young pup. He's anointed. Imagine that irritated his brothers to no end. And Saul looks at him like, oh, nice little kid. Because he goes to the army with food and water. Because his brothers are in the army. And he goes to help, oh, here's that kid, he's coming with food and water and refreshments, nice kid, and he's picking up what's going on. And here's the story.
We can't do anything, we can't defeat these Philistines, they have this giant of a man.
Okay? When I painted with a painting contractor in seminary and college and stuff, I went off on my own, and another guy joined me who was 6'11".
Wow.
So when we came here, he didn't need a ladder. And I said, what's the worst thing that you're at 6'11"? And his sister was 6'10", his brother was 7'2", and his mom and dad were tall. So this whole family was just, I'm tired of people saying, how's the weather up there?
Yeah.
And how's the weather up there? So tall people are looked at as, wow, they must be important. In fact, the first king of Israel, Saul, this is kind of funny, it's almost sad because same thing we do today. They said he was tall, dark, and you finish it.
Handsome.
That's how he's described in the Bible.
Oh.
And he was anointed the king because he was tall, dark, and handsome. So if we get a politician that doesn't look, I came out of Illinois and Paul, he wore bow ties, big ears, ran for the nomination of president. He wasn't going to make it because he didn't look good.
No.
John Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Remember those debates? Nixon is just sweating and stuff like that, and Kennedy's this youthful, young. We tend to move towards the tall, dark, and handsome, or the beautiful people. Look at all the weather women on TV. You ever see a weather woman on TV that's not blonde hair? And I'm going, really? Appearance matters. Well, back then it did. So now here comes this David. Saul's not having a good time as a king. He's not having a good time as a commander either. Okay. And David walks into camp and hears everyone complaining about, we can't, because Goliath is this huge man of a man. And he's now calling us out. Send out your best, I'll fight him, we'll settle it. And everyone's scared to death. So let's read, turn to, in your Bible, 1 Samuel.
Page 260.
Chapter 17. Oh, sorry.
Page 260.
Yeah, that's, let me see which verse it gets to.
Page 260.
Yep, chapter 17, verse 17.
216?
26 was 0.
Oh.
And it's actually 261 is verse 17. 17.
Yep, 17. So, if somebody read, start reading, then we'll just kind of, if you don't want to read, that's fine, but let's
Okay.
read the story.
17 of what?
We're going to keep going until finally David kills Goliath.
Okay. Jesse said to his son David, Take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain, and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See how your brothers fare, and bring some token from them. Now Saul and they, and all the men of Israel, were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with the keeper, took the provisions, and went as Jesse had commanded him. He came to the encampment as the army was going forth to the battle line, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage, ran to the ranks, and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him. All the Israelites, when they saw the man, fled from him and were very much afraid. The Israelites said, "Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. The king will greatly enrich the man who killed him, and will give him his daughter, and make his family free in Israel." David said to the men who stood by him, "What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?" The people answered him in the same way, "So shall it be done for the man who kills him." His eldest brother Eliab heard him talking to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. He said, "Why have you come down? With whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down just to see the battle." David said, what have I done now? It was only a question." He turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him as before. Shall I continue with somebody else want to?
When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, "No one's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth. And if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defied the armies of the living God." David said, "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you."
Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over the armor, and he tried in vain to walk, for he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in his shepherd's bag in the pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
The Philistine came on and drew near to David, and his shield-bearer in front of him. And when the Philistine looked upon David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Philistine said to David, "I am a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air, and to the wild animals of the field." But David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the army of Israel, whom you have defied. This very day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the head bodies of the Philistine army this very day to the birds of the air and to the wild animals of the earth." so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord does not save by the sword and spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And when the Philistine drew nearer to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into the forehead, and he fell down on the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, striking down the Philistine and killing him. And there was no sword in David's hand. Then David ran to the and stood over the Philistine. He grabbed his sword, drew it out of its sheath, and killed him. And then he cut off his head with it.
All right, we'll stop there.
Okay.
This, by the way, last Sunday, this is incredible. I don't know who this is, my wife knows this better than I do. On the radio, there's this announcer or whatever, he calls himself the preacher. I don't know, he worked with the Vikings, I don't know if he's an announcer on the radio. And he went and he used this story as kind of a motivation for the Vikings to go out and play, you know. And David, and they ended up losing, so I don't know. But the story, you know all the details, right? Remember those details? Any detail came about that you had not heard before or you forgot?
Well, I forgot he stabbed him and cut off his
Yeah, I
head.
don't
I
remember
always
either.
just
Okay.
remember that
Yeah.
he kills him with the stone.
Well, in Sunday school, we'd go into the next one.
Right,
I'm sure, but
right,
yeah, yeah,
right.
okay. But he sliced because that was the custom. You put
Right.
the head of your enemy on a pole. I mean, remember John the Baptist's head was on the stake
Yeah.
right in front of Herod's place?
Yep.
So he not only kills the guy, he really kills the guy.
Right.
You don't come back to life after your head is cut off.
Ridiculing them. I mean, you know, that's, you know, I can understand the brother's side too. Here's his younger brother
The
coming in here on the
youngest.
battlefield, yeah. You know, it's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
This
Who do
isn't a
you
good
think
place.
you are?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't a good place for you here.
This sounds like family dynamics even today, right?
Right,
Mhm.
The baby of the family,
right,
you know, what do you know?
right.
You know, that's
More than all the rest of you,
Wait a
I'm the
minute.
baby.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm the baby of my family.
Me too.
Well, yeah, and almost his innocence comes out. You know, he says, well, I'm here, and his almost faith innocence.
Yeah.
Well, God says, if you trust God, you'll win.
Mhm.
I don't know
Like
why
a
you guys are so
childlike
afraid.
faith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
childlike faith.
Yeah.
So here's a story of David that's not a bad story. It says, hey, he's the hero of the story.
Mhm.
He's trusting God, and he seems to get it right.
Right.
Now, go to the next story.
Sounds, I mean, in reality though, I'm sure everyone's going, oh, brother, this is gonna be a massacre.
Correct.
Right, so you think any of his brothers were worrying about him, or
I
was it
think
arrogant?
so.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a little arrogance, and I was thinking, what the heck is he gonna tell his mother and dad that happened to David after he got killed? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
he was the
That we
older
let our
brother.
little
Yeah, we
brothers,
let
yeah.
our little brother fight Goliath.
Yeah, so there was a family thing that says, they weren't angry, they were trying to protect him, maybe,
Right.
okay?
Mm-hmm,
Okay?
yeah.
And almost the Saul thing, you know, okay, here, put on my armor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a comical thing, you know, you could just see David
Yeah.
kind of every piece of armor that's going on, going, I can't walk, he said, right, I can't even move, and this is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I was a basketball player too, and I'm in high school, and we got an important game up. I got three brothers. My youngest brother would come and said, I'll come and help you win the game. I said, you can't play basketball. Same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Get out of here.
yeah,
I like your attitude, but you're just a joke.
yeah. You're not even a skilled soldier.
No.
You know, you don't have the skills, although he did lions and tigers and bears, right?
Right.
He
I
came
thought
up
that
with
was pretty cool. I didn't know that
I
about
don't
him.
remember that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, I've fought pretty hard battles. I've fought against some pretty strong adversaries. Lions and bears aren't just meek things.
Yeah.
And I've
I
snatched
forgot about
the
that.
animal out of their mouth. I mean, that's pretty close contact. It's not
Right.
something from a distance.
Right, right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so he's saying, I have some ability, but certainly I'm not a soldier and I'm not probably old enough. Although it did say he's kind of a ruddy kind of, Goliath looked at him like this, he's probably pretty strong.
Right.
Well, he was killing big animals,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
And he was a very good shot.
Yes,
I mean,
obviously, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
it reminds me of, when I taught in Tanzania, and so I was there, and I'm coming as every Western person, you're gonna do all these things for these people that don't, and so they were putting cement on the wall. They had mud bricks, and they put cement on the wall, smooth it because it protects the mud bricks from the rain. So they had a wonderful process of doing it. They had crews, and one crew was taking the cement with a trowel and flinging it on the wall and did the rough it, and then the next crew came and did the finishing. And I said, I could do that. I mean, look at that, I'm a painter. I've done sheetrock and stuff, so I'm out there and I picked up my first thing like this and go like that and then fell off the trowel. I picked it up again and I hit the wall and fell all the way down. And I think after about 3 or 4 different tries, one African comes up and says, Pastor, we have another job that you can do." David was very good at what he was able to do. And he surprised this arrogant Goliath.
Yep.
You know, we thought nobody could defeat him, and he was able to do that. And we've learned that in war. The Germans used the blitzkrieg, where they would come in, out, and they, you know, and they, we found out in Vietnam that the enemy wasn't as incompetent as we thought. They were able to fight different than us.
Right.
And we came in with this big military might, and they were able to maneuver a lot quicker around. So through the years, centuries, that's not new.
No.
And David came in there and won. And he was faithful to God. This story says, I trust in God. God says, you are my people. Why are we so afraid? It's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, turn to another book, 2 Samuel, and turn to chapter 11. And you're going to find details here that you probably didn't hear in Sunday school either. So.
284.
Really?
2 Samuel 11.
Chapter 11. This is the second story of David I want to highlight today. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about again, what does it mean to be faithful to God? And is this story really about David? He said, I maintain it's not about David at all. And I'll tell you who I think the story is really about. Okay, so chapter 11 of 2 Samuel.
Okay. Carol, you want to read?
In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab with his officers and all Israel with him. They ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained at Jerusalem. It happened late one afternoon when David rose from his couch and was walking about on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful. David sent someone to inquire about the woman. It was reported, this is Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. So David sent messengers to get her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. Now she was purifying herself after her period. Then she returned to her house. The woman conceived, and she sent and told David, I am pregnant. So David sent word to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked how Joab and the people fared, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah went out of the king's house, and there followed him a present from the king. But Uriah slept at the entrance of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and did not go down to his house. When they told David, Uriah did not go down to his house. They said to Uriah, you have just come from a journey. Why did you not go down to your house? Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah remain in booths, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are camping in the open field. Shall I then go to my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do such a thing. Then David said to Uriah, remain there today also, and tomorrow, and I will send you back. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day. On the next day, David invited him to eat and drink in his presence, and made him drunk. And in the evening he went out to lie on his couch with the servants of his Lord, but he did not go down to his house.
Mark,
Verse 14.
I don't see that.
It's the bottom.
What page I have?
we're on 284,
Yeah.
verse 14.
Oh, okay.
David has your
I can read.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by hand of Uriah. In the letter he wrote, set Uriah in the forefront of the hardest fighting, and then draw back from him, so that he may be struck down and die. As Joab was besieged by the city, he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew there were valiant warriors. The men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the servants of David among the people fell. Uriah the Hittite was killed as well. Then Joab sent and told David all the news about fighting, and he instructed the messenger, when you have finished telling the king all the news about fighting, then if the king's anger rises and he says to you, why did you go so near to the city and fight? You do not know that they would shoot you from the wall. Who killed Lashim's son, Jubal, and did not a one throw an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died at this? And let's see, why did they go near the wall? Then you shall say, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead too. So the messenger went and came and told David that all Joab was sent to tell him. The messenger said to David, the men gained an advantage over us and came out against us in the field, but we drove them back to the entrance of the gate. Then the archers shot at your servants from the wall. Some of your king's servants are dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is also. David said to the messenger, thus you shall say to Joab, do not let this matter trouble you, for the sword devours now one and now another. Press your attack on in the city and overthrow it, and encourage him.
When the wife of Uriah heard that her husband was dead, she made lamentations for him. When the mourning was over, David sent and brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son.
All right. What kind of person is David?
Impeach.
Getting inquiry going, yeah, okay. He broke, yeah, he did. He broke every form of his office, his pledge to his office. Right? What did he do? What are some of the things that he did that were just terrible?
Well, first off, he didn't go out with his army.
Bingo, I'm glad you found that, because it's the spring of the year. All kings went out to fight battle in the spring of the year. I mean, you just figure out, right? The snow is gone, it's not as bad. And why wasn't the king there himself, okay? All right, what else? What else in the story is interesting?
He had a right to take Bathsheba.
Yeah. He created a right to do that.
Yeah.
We were in church in Tanzania once, and we were sitting up, you always sit up front, and a young girl came across, and she came to my wife, and she said, your leg is showing. She had worn a long skirt, which you do, a long sleeve, long skirts, that's the culture, but she had a slit in the skirt, so when she sat and crossed her leg, her one leg showed, and, you know, you're up front in church.
Right.
In Tanzania, at least it's changing, but in a lot of the villages, the women wear long skirt outfits, they don't wear tank tops or anything like that. It's just not right showing your skin. So in this story, that's what,
Honoring their body.
here is David on the thing, looking down, and she's out there bathing without anything on, you know, or with less on. She didn't have to be fully naked, but
Right.
she was exposing her skin, which only her husband would have been able to see.
Right.
So there's a breach there. Remember the story of Noah? After the ark lands and they all celebrate, they let the animals out and stuff like that, what does Noah do?
He gets drunk and
He,
goes...
he gets stupid drunk, right?
Yeah.
He gets so drunk and he can't even get up, he falls out, and what do his 3 sons do? In the story of Noah, they notice that their dad's naked, which is a sin.
Right.
Okay? And so they go in with the cloth, literally
Cover.
like this, except one. One son looks and he's banned. He's kicked out.
But you know, in the first place, if he was naked, isn't that already a problem?
Well, I don't know if somebody told him he was naked or whatever, but it was not culturally acceptable to see another person naked.
Mm-hmm.
You know that from the story of Jesus. If someone asks you for a piece of clothing, what are you supposed to do? This is that whole story.
Dig it off your back.
You give them the clothing, and then you do what? You give them not only your coat, but what does Jesus say?
The shirt too.
You give them what's underneath, which leaves you what? It's actually a biblical verse on resistance, on sabotage, if you will. For the bad part would be not on the person being naked, but on the person who forced them to be naked.
Oh.
So we know culturally that somehow covering up is more appropriate. And here this woman is not covered up. David doesn't just kind of go, you know. He seems like he's taking a long look. Okay? And he contrives this whole plan to get rid of her husband. Send him near the wall. That's where they're going to... I mean, is this the kind of king you want? Impeach. I mean, is this the kind of ruler, is this the leadership quality that you want in your king? One who manipulates.
No. Interesting that Joab doesn't really follow the instructions.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of bends the rules.
And was it normal to bathe on a roof? I guess I don't know that.
Well, she was bathing in her home.
In her home.
So he was on the roof.
He was on the roof
Yeah.
looking in.
He was looking
So
down.
he was by she was by a window or
She
something.
could have been by a window. And
Okay.
again, windows aren't like this.
Right.
Windows back then might
Were
have been open.
big
and stuff
open
like that,
areas.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So she's doing her thing that she would do in the confines of her house.
Right.
It's David who's
Who's
the
the
down.
raising down.
Right.
He's the
Right.
picking David, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
He would be arrested today,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
He would be impeached for
Yeah.
breaking his oath. And yet, he is this wonderful king. And by the way, his life does not get better. What happens is that this son is born, he loses that son
Yeah,
as punishment.
yeah.
That's what the story says, that God punished him by taking his son away, and he grieves over that son for a long time. Okay, and then he has some sons, and they don't get along. They're constantly fighting, and one kid tries to take over his kingship. I mean, David does some incredible things. He expands the kingdom and stuff, but at the same time, he's also filled with a lot of flaws.
Mhm.
So if we leave these stories only about David, it leaves us, in my opinion, with, well, is this what God wants us to be, like David?
Do we have Nathan? Is it?
Nathan comes later.
Okay.
Nathan is one of his advisors. And in my reading, the white pages between the words, to me, Nathan and David must have had a very close relationship, because I don't think Nathan would have chanced what he said to David without having that close relationship. It's a very good friend, if you will, holding up a mirror, and hopefully that friend will hear it and see it. And David did.
Mhm.
You know, he told that incredible story, and then David found out that he's the person. And yes, then David repented.
Mhm.
So, that's a good quality, right? He recognized what he did wrong, he said, I'm not gonna do that. But he does some other things later on in life as well. If the story is only about be like David, that's how my Sunday school teacher taught me.
Mhm.
We have to be like David, we have to be like David. Which David I mean, the one with, as a teenage boy, I'd say, oh, I'll be like that one with David and Bathsheba. Or do you be like the one that says, I'll go in the battle
Right,
where the odds are against me, but I trust God?
right, the faith.
Or is this story not about David at all? Are these stories about God? How does God handle people like David? Or better said, how does God handle people like us? I'm not consistent. I'm trying to learn the game of golf. There are days I come home and I tell my wife, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to try this. This is stupid. And other days I come home and I go, hey, I'm going on the pro tour. The word is consistency. As a Christian, I'm not very consistent either. I have thoughts. I have words. I have actions that do not necessarily fit into Christ-like. So did David. So if, and guess what? People look at us, church people, most people when they check a pizza on a census and they say, what religion are you from? You know what the most is in the world? This. You know, they'll say Catholic, Lutheran, or Protestant and stuff like that. But here's the box that's mostly checked.
None? Oh, there is.
The number one box that people choose in this country of are you affiliated with that, what religion are you affiliated or religious belief are you from, is none. They're called the nuns. Not N-U-N-S, but N-I-N, okay?
Right.
And so what happens is, if you talk to some of those, one, not just the only, they'll say, you Christians are a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
Or here's another one from Gandhi. Gandhi was not a Christian, and he said this once, I would become a Christian if you Christians would actually live out what Jesus taught you.
Right.
If the story of our faith, the story of our church, is about us, people will always see us, why should I join that church? Why should I be part of that? You people are a bunch of, you've heard this before, a bunch of what? Hypocrites.
Hypocrites, yeah.
And when people say that to me, I say, yeah, we are. It's not about me, though. In Chicago, we had an associate pastor. He went to the University of Chicago Theological School. He's getting his doctorate. Had a photographic memory. Brilliant man. He could tell you what page of what book and the quote of a book that he read years ago. Wow. And he was part-time associate, and people came up to him and asked him all these questions. And I was my ego, I'm starting to feel like, holy crap, I'm the lead pastor here, you know. They're coming to me. And it took me some thinking. I think it's this Holy Spirit that said, Chris, you know, if they go to him, you're the one that kind of introduced them to the church leadership and they brought him on board. You're the one that kind of was his reference.
Right.
So, hey. Or Chris, if he doesn't know the answer, they'll come to you anyway. Or Chris, this isn't your church at all. It's not about you. This is Christ's church. It's you know, I could ask each one of you how many years have you been members here, and you could say, well, so many years. And sometimes, well, that means we know how it should be done, how it should be done. Or is it Christ's church, where Christ comes in here and helps guide, lead, shape our life together? If these stories are only about David, we don't have much of a faith to share. That's the one that you're hanging your hat on? David? Like David? Come on. Or, oh, like Cross Lutheran Church. Well, they've done some dumb things. No, that's what the church is? No, this church is about how Christ comes in and takes us misfits and hypocrites and somehow holds us together. These stories are about how God deals with misfits and bad people and dumb people and cruel people, and that's the story of the Bible, actually. And so we get this God who hangs on the cross, and what's one of the last things that Jesus says? The people who were cruel and mean and religious. And what does Jesus say?
Forgive them.
Because why?
They know not what they do.
They don't know what they're doing. It's not forgive them because they're really bad people.
Right.
It's because they don't know.
What do you think he was talking about, the Romans or the Jews?
Well, look at the scene he's looking down on. What's the scene? Who's there?
Well,
He
the
sees
apostles,
Pharisees.
the apostles are not there.
Yep, they ran away,
Yeah.
except for,
Mm.
there were a couple. Who's there? His mom's there, right?
Well,
You know that?
John, yeah.
And John, so there's one disciple, the rest of them are scared to death, okay? And there was probably some very religious leaders, right, because they gotta see that it's finished.
Mhm.
If they're not in the front line, they're maybe in the back line. And then there's also, well, for sure, there's gotta be the Romans, right?
Of course.
And they're the symbol of authority,
Right.
okay? So you've got this
There's got
mixture
all
of
the
people there, and maybe it's not just those at the foot of the cross, maybe it's all those who played out in that story at the end, and Jesus says, Father, forgive them. That's the core of our faith. It's not about us, it's about how God chooses to operate among us. I think, before the crucifixion, and Luther said this too, Luther thought the birth of Jesus was much more valid, or not, maybe valid is not the word, much more important than Easter. And this is how Luther said, he says, if God can become human, God can certainly do all this other stuff. Bring people back from the dead. I think the incarnation is that's a fancy term for becoming flesh. That Jesus' choice, God's choice, and you see this throughout Scripture, Jesus says, you did not choose me, I chose you. In Philippians, Paul's hymn, early hymn, and Christ, who is up in heaven, this is the image, chose to come down and become flesh, human. But that's the operation of God. In fact, my conversation with Muslims, if I'm going to talk to Muslims about Jesus, Muslims are going to say, we believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
He's a great teacher. We believe in the teachings of Jesus. Great prophet. He was a prophet just like Abraham was a prophet, just like Moses was a prophet. Elijah was a prophet. And so was Muhammad. But Muhammad, each prophet had something to say, but each one added more to the mix. Until finally Muhammad is the last prophet who word. If we talk like that with Muslims, or if we talk Trinity with Muslims, it's all, you believe in three gods. No, we believe in one God. Oh, no, you believe in three gods. And you go back and forth and you have this argument. But here's where I found the entrance point to most is talk about forgiveness. When you do something wrong, what does Allah, or how do you deal with that? Or how does Allah deal with that? And in the Muslim, they do what typical, this is Greek philosophy, by the way. Greek philosophy, what you did is you took one step closer and got as close to God as you could. But in Lutheran theology, we say, well, that's what the Roman Catholics believe. They call it good works, right?
Right.
You do good work, you get credit. In Muslims, this is why you put a bomb, you strap a bomb and you walk into a building and blow it up. Because what happens is, the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate good work is just sacrifice of your life. Okay? It's part of their religious thinking. Not all Muslims believe that it's going to do it. For the fanatical ones, that's what they believe. Just like there's fanatical Christians who believe that unless you do all these good things, forget it. Okay? That's not biblical. Okay? What's biblical is this. God chooses to come to us, where we are at, in our situations. Okay? And forgiveness is God offering this new life. This is what Jesus brings. There are stories in the Bible where people repent and Jesus offers forgiveness. There's also stories in the Bible where Jesus offers forgiveness and there's no sign of, at least, words that say that person actually changed their mind or changed whatever. Jesus just says to the woman, go and sin no more. We don't know if she did or not.
Right.
But he says, I forgive you. I'm not going to throw that stone. I choose to do something that the world is hard to believe.
Right.
Okay? So when you talk to a Muslim, Ask them, how are they forgiven? Well, they're forgiven by doing more good. So the hope is, by the time you die, you have more good than bad. You have to outdo your bad with more good. And Luther would say, how do I know? How do I know that one moment I'm feeling like, yeah, I did a lot of good, and then all of a sudden I had a thought. And we say, well, Christ forgives us. Well, what do you have to do to get that? Christ forgives us. Okay. The story is not about David. David has a lot of bad stories. He has some good stories, but it's got both bad and good. It's about what God does with bad people. And instead of looking at David, it's what does God do with us, who have thoughts, words, and actions. I've reached an age where the word that comes back to mind is regrets. The things that I should have done. Not the things I've done, but the ones I should have done, what I didn't do. A lot of regrets. And I see that with people at funerals especially. A lot of regrets. I should have. We believe in a God who takes the things we should have not done, or should have done, and should have, and did, and takes all of that and says, I take that on me, it's not on you anymore.
That was part of your sermon, is letting go of the past and forgiveness. Yeah.
Forgiveness is, and how can we make forgiveness as part of our routine and not something extraordinary like the disciples thought, oh my goodness, how do we do that 70 times 7? That has to be really extraordinary. No, it's part of our everyday routine. Right. How we see human beings, how we learn and understand.
Yes.
And I think that's the good news. The good news in the Bible, because there's a lot of really awful stories in the New Testament.
Yes.
Is what is God doing here? You know, what is God ultimately doing here? And it doesn't stop in the Old Testament. It keeps moving until where we see Jesus is not a new idea, but Jesus is a fuller idea of what God has chosen to do. The Psalm. Didn't you say the Psalm? If you have your bulletins, if you go over that Psalm over and over again, you're saying God is faithful. God is faithful. That's good news. All right, so I know it's noon. I gotta have you gotta try this. This is really good. I'm gonna give you each. Maybe I'll burst your bubble. David did not write all the Psalms. Okay. So
you
talked about that last
You think you wrote any?
We don't know. We think that maybe this is a Psalm that he did write. But I'm gonna ask you to do something, and I put the Psalm here. You all know the Psalm is my shepherd, I shall not want. Okay. What I want you to do is put your own words. I want you to write your own song. So instead of the Lord is my I shall not want, that's, you know what the word is in the Bible, right? The Lord is my shepherd. Okay. But I want you to think of a word that would apply to you. When I did this, I put down the Lord is my teacher. Because what conjured up all the people that God, all the teachers that God had placed in my life. Now some people put down, the Lord is my doctor. You know, I shall not want. He makes me, and then I put down a teacher, I said, he makes me learn things that I would never have known. So, just try. Just try to see if you could fill out, and we'll end this section today just with someone hopefully volunteering to read your song.
That wonderful prayer. Okay, Chris. Chris has something to say.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was another pastor. That was just hilarious.
That is awesome.
It froze us all for a moment until we realized, yeah, this is not about showing this.
But that was it. You did great. Because everybody's been there. We're in the quiet. Who's going to pray? Because no one feels worthy.
And maybe we don't get all of it. Maybe we'll just get a few words, and then take this home and maybe finish it. But I think it's a good exercise. let's just try one. Is somebody willing to read their psalm? Oh, good, thanks.
The Lord is my counselor, I shall not want. He makes me feel comfort. He leads me in my faith. He restores my soul. He guides me in my everyday life for His name's sake. Even though I walk in a dark world, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your presence and peace, they comfort me. And that's about as far as I got.
Good, thank you.
Same.
Anybody else?
I just said, the Lord is my hope. And I said, He makes me see what He wants us to do. He leads me to do better. And when He guides me, when I need someone to help me through tough, bad times. Even though I walk with the Lord, I know He's with me always. I fear no evil. Where you are, I am comforted by you and your presence. As far as I got to.
Wow. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll read mine as I said, the Lord is my teacher, I shall not want. He makes me see things and think about things I would normally miss. He leads me by His example. He restores my soul. He guides me to be a curious person for His name's sake. Even though I walk into my own fears and uncertainties, I will fear no evil. Your love will affirm me, they comfort me. You prepare others to show me the way in the presence of my uncertainty. And that's as far as I got. So,
Neat. That's a cool exercise. I've never done that.
keep this in front of you. It is. It's not original. It's actually my wife's. She put this together, and I just liked it, and I found it was a different way of doing it. So you now have a little bit of knowledge of David. You're going to go into Elijah, another interesting guy. All of our animals have biblical names. We don't have an Elijah, but our goats are Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. Our sheep is Grace. Our llama is Solomon. The donkey is Joseph. Our first batch of chickens were all the disciples' names, and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Our ducks are Pauline, Timothy, and Titus, and then we have had a whole bunch of other ducks that we just stopped naming. And our dog is Abraham.
Well, it was a pleasure.
I got two things.
Yeah.
You said that about bad thoughts. There's two preachers on Sunday night on 12 o'clock. If you don't listen to them, tape them. They're good. And one of them said that these bad thoughts get picked up in that. He said, when you get a bad thought, we all have bad thoughts, run from it.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And then the next one was when Goliath was belittling David there. He was more or less doing that, trying to scare him, so he wouldn't have to kill that little kid, I think, too.
He was trying to intimidate him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do that a lot. We put people down.
Yeah, but
So-
he was doing it, I think, because he knew he was going to slaughter him.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to have people, great big guy, kill his kid.
Right. It would have been effective if David ran away.
Right.
He would have still intimidated the rest of Israel's army. Yeah.
Right.
But David did not run away.
No.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me
Thank you.
be here with
Thank
you.
you for
So,
being here. Thank you.
Thank you.